Hello and welcome to this video about April's solar eclipse in Aries. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California. Now, in this video, we're going to tell you about this eclipse, including what it will feel like, when it's happening, and best ways to handle it.
This moon has a lot of stress in it, but there's a bright spot here, and that's Saturn, which might come as a surprise. Saturn's not usually thought of as a bright spot, but we'll come back to this. So two things are of main interest about this moon. First of all, is that this is an eclipse. And we know that this is an eclipse because the sun and the moon here together are quite close to the North Node. They're not in the same sign as the North Node, that's in Taurus. They are in Aries, but the proximity of the sun and the moon to the node, either node, the South Node, it could be the South Node, in this case it's the North Node. This is what signals to us that we are entering eclipse season. So when a moon is an eclipse, you want to analyze a couple of factors about it. You want to ask yourself, is this a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse? This is a solar eclipse, obviously, and we know that because the sun and the moon are together. That means that the moon is going to cross over the face of the sun from our view on Earth and hide it from us for a time. So that makes this a solar eclipse. Solar eclipses are different from lunar eclipses because, well, all eclipses are a time when we're forced to look at our shadow, but solar eclipses force us to look at our shadow by the actions that we take. Solar eclipses show us the shadow actions that we're doing, like the actions that we take that we maybe kind of wish we hadn't taken, or are just an expression of some side of ourselves that we'd rather hide away or turn away from or not look at. So this is some of why eclipses are so uncomfortable, because they bring up what Jung would call shadow material. So next question or factor that we want to think about here is, how intense is this eclipse? Is it like partial or total? This one is a total eclipse, which definitely amps up its intensity. Then we want to ask ourselves, does this eclipse happen at the North or South Node? This is a North Node eclipse. We know that because the eclipse thing, which is the sun, is conjunct the North Node, and the sun and the moon are together here with the North Node. Therefore, that makes this eclipse an initiating or initializing one. It's tied to North Node factors, which are about the future, your evolution, and what you're leaning into. What is in front of you. So this is not a releasing eclipse, which it would be if it was at the South Node, which is what next month's eclipse is going to be. Julia, what are your thoughts about these factors of this eclipse?
Yes, so it's not just an initiatory eclipse because of the North Node, and it's also a new moon, which are new sort of beginnings for us that come every month, and it's also in a cardinal sign, which is a very initiatory sign of Aries. So something big and new is happening here, for sure. And you know, one of the things, you know, having that sextile from Saturn makes me think that this might be work related, or whatever your purpose is right now, whether you're retired or going to school, you know, whatever your sense of purpose is, that's where this is going to hit. And having also, we've got Vesta up in there too. So a lot of focus. I mean, I see this as a very sort of myopically focused singular drive kind of happening with those factors. And, you know, we haven't looked quite at the square from Pluto yet, which has just dipped back into Aquarius, where it hasn't been in 248 years. And that's where a lot of the intensity is going to come from. You know, eclipses can be very unexpected in our lives. They can, and this Pluto here, the square from Pluto kind of makes me wonder if there's going to be some type of power struggle, especially coming from the collective, that might throw you a little bit of a curveball with your sort of singular independent focus in getting something off the ground in your life. Yeah, what are you thinking about this eclipse?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that, you know, whatever, like if this eclipse is hitting a person's chart in a very personal way, and it feels like very strong for them, that it would be so important to just make sure that, that you learn from it, you know, and that you lean into the impact that you want your actions to have in the future in the best possible way. There is such a strong quality of birth about this. And beginning and forwarding and leaning into that future. So I also want to point out that this particular eclipse is happening at 29 degrees, which is a special degree in any sign at all. And there are 2 degrees that are really special, and one of them is 29 and the other one is 0. And those are the degrees of a sign where the transition happens, where a planet leaves one sign and moves into another. 29 degrees, and they're really like bookends, you know, 29 and 0 degrees. And and so having this eclipse happen in 29 degrees says to me that there's not just the quality of beginnings, which stems from the North Node connection and the placement in Aries, but also a quality of endings, a quality of really wanting to get it right, a quality of closure, because this is the final degree of Aries. And so this is a degree that contains embedded in it this this quality of like the old warrior, the old hero who has fought many battles, who has, you know, been there for the victories and the losses, and who has learned to marshal their efforts and has learned to channel that drive and not waste even a bit of it. So I think there's almost a, you know, a sort of a conservation of energy quality here, and a desire to just really hit the nail on the head with the actions that you take. So Julia was talking about the shadow agent Pluto. I'd like to talk about the planets involved in an eclipse as being shadow agents, which is just kind of a fun name for these planets, which are assisting the eclipse by bringing you perspective. So Pluto, Julia, you talked about how, you know, there might be some factors, maybe some unconscious factors, some controlling power-related factors coming at you from the collective because of this Pluto square the eclipse. And then we also have this Pallas Athene in Cancer squaring the eclipse. And this Pallas Athene was involved with the other moon of this month too. And she's there in Cancer, which takes the wisdom of Pallas Athene and really brings it into the intuitive realm. So it's a very intuitive, sympathetic, and warm influence that Pallas Athene is bringing in here. And Vesta is a shadow agent too. And Julia, you mentioned this, how that really brings that drive and that force of Aries into just a very narrowly channeled place, and how that concentrates it. So, I mean, I would say that, like, putting all of that together, the actions that you take during this eclipse are going to have repercussions deep into your future, and potentially even into the future of, you know, your future lives. And so being aware of ways that your actions may be driven by shadow material, and converting that and channeling that into the best actions that you can possibly take would seem to be pretty important. So this is why I'm calling this one Volcanic Actions Tempered by Sympathy, and that's Pallas Athene's influence. And now Saturn is the bright spot. And Julia, you said a little bit about this before, that Saturn's influence here is probably going to bring this into the realm of career for some people. And I'm wondering what you think about how this Saturn might help people with self-control around this eclipse, and any other thoughts you have about it. Hi, Jamie here. Before we continue, I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for watching this video. And if you're enjoying this content, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Our lowest tier starts at just $5 a month and gives you early access to these monthly videos. Your support helps keep this content free. The link can be found in the description box below. Thanks again, and let's get back to the video.
Oh, yeah. Well, Saturn, we have a little of that sympathy coming from Pallas, but we also in Saturn in the very compassionate sign of Pisces might bring a little bit more of sort of sympathy by responsibility, because responsibility is a good keyword for Saturn. Saturn is still going to be in the early degrees of Pisces in this eclipse. So we're going to just only start getting a feel for what this 2.5-year transit of Saturn in the sign of Pisces is going to be like. Pisces is about serving something higher than oneself in some way. It's very much, it's the sign that has the biggest urge to merge with something greater, whether that's creativity, compassion, substance, or spirituality. And Saturn is a call to our purpose, and also showing us where our weak spots are. So especially in your work or whatever your life direction is, especially if it is in something where you feel like you're serving something greater than yourself, your job means more to you than a paycheck, or what you do on the side, or how you help out other people in your life, or your creative drive. Saturn is going to help add a little bit of structure and even test those weak areas so you can actually be much more effective in how you are compassionate and sympathetic. And I definitely think that is the gift of this eclipse. Yeah. Who do you think is going to feel this the most, Janie?
Well, birthdays that are going to feel this would be ones born in the days surrounding the date of the eclipse, but also spread out throughout the year on a quarterly basis. So if you are an Aries born between April 14th and 24th, then this eclipse sits right very close to your sun and might even happen on your own birthday, and you would absolutely feel it. Now, if you are a Libra born at the half birthday of the Aries I just spoke of, then you would be born October 17th to 28th, and this eclipse would fall opposite your sun and you would strongly feel it. If you're a Cancer, you would be born near where Pallas Athene is placed in this eclipse. July 16th to 27th would place your sun right about here, and the eclipse squares it. And similarly, Capricorns born January 14th to 25th, their birthday would land right about over here. Their sun would be placed here in very late Capricorn, and the eclipse would square it. And these are the folks that are going to feel this eclipse the most. And I want to say, like, about that Saturn in Pisces, I see Saturn in Pisces is representing doing the hard work of empathy and compassion. And I think, Julia, as you said, this is really the gift and the key of this eclipse, because if a person is willing to do the hard work of empathy and compassion, then they're going to come through, they're going to sail through this eclipse with no problems.
Well, that's all for today. In this video, we gave you a lot of clues about this moon and how you can handle it for best results. Now, we love making these videos for you, and if you love them too, then please hit that like button.
We make these videos for you for free, and if you appreciate it, supporting us on Patreon is the best way to show it. Let your friends know about our videos too. Have a beautiful April, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.